So today I want to share with you what it is that I am seeing ahead for us as we go into the second half of 2022. So I've pulled out my cards, which helps me to access my intuition. And I want to share with you what it is that I'm seeing here about how to make the best use of this next 6 months, because they are going to be some interesting times indeed. And I'd like to do whatever I can to help you to really make this work for you in terms of you living more and more into the life that you're meant to live. So, hello, this is Daniel Piatek. I am a practical mystic, and I guide people, I mentor them, and I teach them how to live the way of the practical mystic, which is a set of perspectives and teachings and tools that help you to learn how to listen to all of life inside of you, around you, to be able to see and access and interpret what life is trying to tell you to help you to become the person that you intended to be. So thank you for joining me, and I'm making this video a couple days after the summer solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere. So the longest day, the brightest day, etc. And the last couple of days, as I've been listening to how life has been guiding me, I have been feeling this push to do a video. So today's the day. And before I started to record, I pulled some cards to take a look at what it is that I am being shown is ahead for us. And it's a very interesting time. So if you follow astrology at all, it doesn't really matter if you do, but these last couple of years have been times of immense change, which are going to continue now for the next couple of years yet. And what's showing up here in the cards, which let me just share them with you. So for those of you that don't know the tarot, I'm going to be sharing these with you. Some of the images here can look a little frightening. So I'm just going to ask you to, I will help to explain them, help to interpret them in the ways that actually can help you. So the purpose of my time with you today is to help you to navigate as you move forward over this next 6 months. Even if you don't tune into astrology or listen to somebody who is intuitive, etc., if you look around, it's pretty obvious that our world is going through a time of profound, profound change. And it is. And in how I see this and how I'm being shown to look at this, it's immensely positive. The context is immensely positive. But inside of that immensely positive context can be things that can be at times immensely difficult for the human being to know how to handle, how to respond to, and how to cope with. So we have here our first card, which is the Death card, change. So I'm going to come back and go through these one at a time. Second is the Four of Cups. The third is the Lover's card. And then Justice. Pretty ominous looking, this Justice card, yes? So breathe, don't worry. And then as a kind of overall energy is this Eight of Cups, which also looks kind of scary, yeah? So I'm going to interpret these for you. And then our helper over here is the Moon. So I'm going to try not to belabor these messages, but the first card is Death. So in the work that I do with people, which is I help them to walk through quite significant change in their life. The change at first and first and foremost and at its fundamental is an inward change, an inner change around belief systems, attitudes, opinions, seeing the scripts, the habits, the patterns that run them, and beginning to do work of different kinds to have them die, to no longer be in control of them. Some part of what they've experienced to be them, whether they knew it or not, is having to go away, is having to die. So belief, and it could be unconscious, it could be partly seen, an unconscious belief that's driving them that I'm just not good enough. Came from earlier in childhood, came from the past, as far back as you can imagine the past could go, feeding that belief that I'm not good enough, I'll never be able to do it, etc., etc. So the death card for me, when I'm working with somebody reading this is the energy that I basically work with. It's how to help people to let go of something which is not serving them. But oftentimes that thing that's needing to be let go can feel like, oh my God, that's me. That's me. That's just the way I see it. So there is profound change ahead for us as we move into the second half of the year. And this feels to me, as I look at the image in this card, because she's wearing the mask of the skeleton, she also has one in her hand. And it's the one in her hand, in essence, that's providing the light to be able to see. And I just have this, as I'm looking at that, the message that I'm getting is there are going to be ways in which these things that run us are going to become really much more obvious to us. Much more obvious to us. And then that's leading me into the second card. Things that are running us, old beliefs, stuff from the past, situations in our lives, could be relationships, jobs, where we're living, how we're living, etc. That suddenly it becomes more obvious, like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much that's impacting me. Which leads me to the second card, the Four of Cups. So the Four of Cups, one of the main messages of the Four of Cups is having an opportunity, a new way of seeing, a new experience, a new situation, something new that's beneficial, that one's not seeing, that you're not seeing, even though it's right there in front of you. Even though it's right there in front of you. So one of those things that's here, one of those types of things in the second half of 2022, one of those types of things that's going to be right here for you to see, that's actually here to help you, is seeing how much something is impacting you negatively. May not be obvious why that's helpful. I'm going to take those off. So if we are trapped by something, if something is keeping us limited, it's impeding our further movement in life. If there's something that is actually in the way of that, and we're not aware of it, then we can't do anything about it, correct? So the first thing, and this is in almost everything that I do with people, is the first thing is for us to begin to make what is unseen seen. What we don't see, we don't realize is basically operating us. What we don't realize is right here in the way. We don't see it. We need to make it seen. We need to make it seen. And so what this is saying is things that are going to be coming to your awareness. You see, he's bringing this in front of her eyes to be able to see something which was already there, but she wasn't able to see it. And you can see even at this, you kind of get a sense of it's not so easy for her to see. She's sort of got one eye gone, but she's got her third eye open, which is basically saying, there will be ways beyond the usual ways of seeing something or perceiving something that's going to be showing you, hey, this over here, this in here, this in here buried really deep. This is in your way and needs attention. So there are ways to do this. So for those of you that don't know my work, I'm trying to think, because I don't want to go on and on about this, but the first and foremost thing, and this is something you can start to do now after listening to this, is as you, and maybe even as I'm speaking these words and you're hearing these words, there may be something that comes to your mind that what this is about, at least at present for you. And the first and most important thing for you to do before you can go further is actually acknowledge this. Acknowledge, yes, I see that this is happening. Yes, that's true. There's something in this dynamic. There's something in this situation that as much as I may try to kind of convince myself it's okay, or as much as I try to kind of make do and get through, this isn't a good situation for me. This isn't a helpful situation for me. And for you, first and foremost, to allow yourself to tell yourself the truth about something, to tell it to yourself. And maybe it'd be nice to have, somebody you could share this with that could help to kind of just listen to you. Not necessary, but it's sure helpful. But for yourself to tell the truth of an experience. Because that experience, which is showing up here suddenly, becoming more obvious, it's sort of been there all along, but you haven't seen it because it's just been so a part of who you think you are. Suddenly it's kind of saying, hey, take a look here. It's here to help you to see, even though it's been difficult to see. Maybe because there's other things that have been going on which have taken your attention. This hasn't been so important, and now suddenly it's showing up as important. And then this is taking that story a little further and saying, if you can begin to embrace that thing, situation, person, place you live, etc., whatever it is, whatever those are, that you're realizing, if you can embrace the fact, this is here to help me. This is here to help me. This is here to help me. Seeing how painful this is, becoming more clear about how this situation doesn't serve me in some ways. Feeling and sensing that it's just something about this is not right. That showing up is here to help you. So see, because these two things, actually allowing yourself to see, feel, and sense and know that something isn't right, allowing yourself, as opposed to pushing it aside or talking yourself into, oh, it's not so bad. Oh, he doesn't really mean that. Oh, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just being too sensitive. These kind of things where you're making something that actually is kind of sharp. Oh, ouch. You're making it, you're sort of protecting it so you don't feel it. So not doing those things anymore and saying, yeah, this is sharp. Yeah, this doesn't feel good. This hurts. That. And then saying, okay, I don't like this. It doesn't, but this is here to help me. This is here to help me to move forward. Because there are things that need to be made right. Justice is about being clear about what's right and what's wrong. And this particular justice card, for those of you that know the tarot, looks like a tower card, right? Looks like something, and the idea with the tower, in essence, is something is being shaken in your life that may feel quite disruptive, but the entire purpose for the disruption, for the sudden change, the sudden something that feels jolting, the entire purpose of it is to remove something from your life which you did not perceive was a limitation before, but at this point it's gone too far. It's time for it to go. It's like you've had the opportunities to address them, but it hasn't been addressed for one reason. And so the situations, life is going to kind of orchestrate things to make it so that it has to be dealt with. That barrier needs to be removed. And the Eight of Cups, as being the underlying energy, is about moving on from situations which no longer serve you. So what's showing up in these cards is, for me, and again, it's the work I do, it's the way I live my life, is I'm continually allowing myself to be guided beyond limitation into circumstances, into beliefs, into attitudes, into perspectives that allow more and more of who it is that I already am. My God self, my authentic self, my spark of the divine, what I call the unique genius, to allow that version of me to become more and more living my life. And in order for that to happen, the things in my life, internally and externally, that prevent it from expressing more, have to be seen and addressed. So this whole reading, as I'm kind of drawing this to a close, I'm realizing, for me, this is just how life is. And most people, I mean, for me, for most of my life, I would fight this stuff because it's like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to feel it. It's okay to, I was, sort of trained through my past, my past, both as far back as past can go, to take care of other people, to make do, to get by, to sublimate my own best interest to that of what I perceive to be the best interest of the other. So in that way of seeing, anytime something unpleasant came up, I automatically would push it away because that's what we just get trained to do when we're young. Too much, make it go away. Or seeing something about somebody who I cared about, and seeing something, I was like, ooh, and then I didn't want to see it. I didn't know what to do with it. So this is, the message I'm getting now is to pass on to you, to anybody who is listening to this. The message is that those old ways of avoiding, of pushing aside, of not being responsible for your own best interest, those days need to start being over. And because as we move forward the rest of this year into the next couple of years, these skills, this capacity for us to actually feel and sense what we are experiencing, to sense and know something's not right about this. Think about it. Look around, whatever way that you interact with your world, through other people that you meet, through such organizations, watching the news, on Facebook, etc., etc. Isn't this the ongoing question we have? Is like, can I believe this? Is this real? Is this true? How do I know? How do I make sense? How do I know how to make choices in my life to move forward? And that's why this message is coming forward, because what it was that was just presented through these cards is a type of skill set that not only will over the next 6 months help you to move yourself into better places, better spaces inside, better situations, better circumstances outside, new work, etc., that are going to serve you very well. So very tangibly move things forward in your life over these next 6 months. But beyond that is teaching you a very different way of relating to your own experience and responding to it, and beginning to start to practice and kind of play in this idea that I can actually allow myself to be real with myself about the fact that this doesn't feel good or this is confusing, etc., etc. I can allow myself to actually do that. And then bring in the idea that, okay, this fear, this confusion, this sadness, whatever, is here to help me. It's here to help me. So I'm realizing now as I'm saying this, I'm going to need to make another video, stay tuned, about then what to do with this. Because the work that we do, myself and then a small group of women who have been clients of mine over the past years and have now become colleagues, the work we do at the Hero Academy is to help people to learn to live and to practice these skills and tools. Because as you make like this way of seeing that I was just expressing, be real with yourself about what you're seeing and experiencing, even if it's confusion, even if it's whatever, just be real about it and let it be there, and then come with it and say, okay, there's something about this that's here to help me. That's the beginning. Because if you can't start by doing that, then because what it is that's showing up, even if it's confusion, even if it's doubt, whatever it is, that it's really important information that's showing up to try to free you out of something. And see, this is, where did it go? Here we go. This card of it that shows up at the helper is the moon. Is the moon. The idea with the moon is it's the things that are hard to see. So if you think of the light of the sun being quite bright, things are more obvious, they're in your face, they're there. The moon, on the other hand, it's shadowy, you're not sure what it is, etc. And so that's what I'm getting out of this moon card right now, is for us to find a way to embrace the stuff that is not so clear, but we get a sense, we're getting a sense of something. It's like, hold on a second, this doesn't feel right. It's to go ahead and embrace it, and then to kind of take our other arm, which is so wild, this is so interesting. Take our other arm, wrap around these two, in this case, they're these two wolves showing up to help us. And this is here to help me. I'm sensing and feeling this, and this is here to help me. Then that's first and foremost. If you can't start there, then the rest of what it is that I have to say won't be of much help to you, really. Because I'm not telling you how to live your life. What it is I'm teaching is how to teach you how to relate to your own experience of life in different ways, so that the profundity of support that is all around us all the time, that we don't see because we haven't been trained to see it, but how to kind of change how you're relating to your experience and seeing your experience in such a way that the profundity of help that is here for us in life can begin to be revealed to you. That's what I'm getting from the moon here. So, one last card to kind of finish up this sort of advice here. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. And The challenge that I have in my work, which is that what I'm teaching, what it is I'm talking about, is actually not complicated in the least. There's very little that's complicated about what I'm saying, but it's very confusing for most people for a while because I'm talking about relating to our experience in ways that oftentimes are counter what it is that we either were taught or just are living, and we don't know. They're almost 180 degrees different. So we're having to get our whole mind, let it kind of shift around. And then the other is, what I'm talking about is only helpful when you practice it. Only helpful when you practice it. Sort of knowing and understanding what I'm talking about will make almost no difference to you in your life. But if you start practicing this, and practicing is messy because we're changing very well-worn patterns, not only in ourselves, but in the culture that we're swimming in. So, the advice is this interesting King of Swords card. This is our advice. So the first thing that I noticed was that there's butterflies everywhere. Those white things are butterflies, and he has a big butterfly on his armor. Butterflies are, you could say, a prettier version of that death card. Yes, because what a caterpillar has to go through in order to become a butterfly is literally, it's a death. It's, the caterpillar makes the cocoon, goes in the cocoon, goes into the cocoon, and its body literally turns into mush and then gets reformed into the butterfly. That was wild when I first learned that, because I used to sort of assume the caterpillar kind of crawls in there and wings sprout, right? That's a pretty way to see it. Actually, it goes in there and allows its body. It's just subjected to the experience of having its body turned into this sort of mush, and its being is completely reformulated into this thing with wings. So the thing is about this is you have that kind of energy, and you have this warrior with antenna, with the antlers. So what this is telling me, because you have all these swords here in front of him, is that it's likely to be challenging this next 6 months. So not the last, 2.5 years has been a walk in the park. But what this is sharing with me, because I asked for advice here, is that if you can really practice the kinds of things I'm talking about in this video, and then I'll speak about more in a following video about what to do from there, then really beautiful things will happen. So the Sun card is about one's self, one's beingness showing up in its glory. The Sun is at the end of quite a long process of going through those transformations, of seeing these things that aren't pretty or fun to see, or we haven't been able to see or known what to deal with when we see them, is moving through that, having parts of ourselves go through that transformation that was in that death card, etc. And then finally sort of coming out here at the end, emerging as this butterfly. This is in the major arcana of the tarot, you could say this is the butterfly moment. It's sort of emerging from this process that's been this process of change, of growth, of deep transformation. So what I see here is the world is likely to get crazy, and it's crazier. So I think there's elections coming up in the US. There's all this stuff with war, etc., etc. There is going to be more craziness in the outside world. And it's critical. This is telling me as advice. It's critical you stay back in here inside your own protection and just worry about your own transformation. Worry about, deal with what is there in your life. Please do not allow yourself to get pulled into the craziness that's going on out there. Please consider not participating in these crazy kind of conversations. Well, that may not seem crazy to you, but the conversations and the back and forth that happen in social media, etc., arguing this point and that point, anything that pulls you out into some kind of involvement with something that actually is not relevant to your day-to-day life, what I just heard is insanity. So let me say that again, and maybe just take this in and see how this speaks to you, and take it for what it speaks to you. Is over these next 6 months, the advice is stay focused on what is in your direct personal world that is needing your attention. Things that haven't been seen before that are suddenly seen, things that you've been aware of but haven't known how to deal with, is to take them and say, yes, I see you. Yes, I feel that. That is what is actually happening. As far as I can tell, I might be confused about it. I might not be sure, but that is happening. And then on the other hand, come around and say, and there's something about this, the situation, and the fact that I'm seeing it is here to help me. That is where to focus. Make that your armor. That being concerned with taking care of business in your own personal world, what affects you day to day, is your armor in which your own transformation will happen so that you can emerge more whole, more complete, more empowered, and putting any energy into in almost any way, putting any energy into anything that does not impact very directly on your day-to-day life now is craziness, is insanity. That's the message, guys. So, beautiful. So parting shot. 6 of Swords. Similar to that 8 of Cups that showed up earlier, but the message is different. Moving from a situation which just does not serve you and moving on to, in the process of being taken to a situation that does serve you. So that is why this is important, because if one engages in things that are insane, one becomes insane. I learned that quite significantly through my own healing process these last number of years, because of relationships that I was in, which I was participating in as somebody who was allowing myself to be really mistreated and just being abused psychologically and mentally. Narcissistic relationships that I wasn't seeing in my own patterning, my own history basically was keeping me there. And what I realized as I started to heal is when you're living with someone who who's crazy, when you're engaged with, when you're trying to, some of us get caught up in trying to fix someone else whose behavior is really, it's kind of crazy and can be destructive, etc. When we participate in those in any way, shape, or form, we become crazy too. So don't be crazy. Don't be crazy. Okay, so thank you for taking your time and giving your attention. I really appreciate it. Your attention is your most valuable resource. And our ability to decide where we place our attention is becoming increasingly more difficult to be in command of. Where we put our attention. This is partly why this message of allowing our attention to be pulled into drama, trauma, and stuff that has basically nothing to do with our life is we're being taken over. So I love you. I love this journey that we're on. Thank you for being a part of it. And I'll see you real soon. Okay, bye for now.